Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast topic, How People Talk in English. We're diving deep into a roadmap, a guide designed to take you, our listener, from those very first hesitant words in English all the way to speaking with real confidence and naturalness.
It's an incredible journey, isn't it? And this material really lays out the path, focusing not just on the nuts and bolts of the language, but on the vital skill of conversation. It's about truly connecting, understanding and being understood in real-time interactions.
Absolutely. We have this fantastic resource in front of us, outlining the steps. Our mission in this deep dive is to unpack the key insights, the actionable strategies, the little sparks of knowledge that can make a huge difference in your English speaking journey.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely excited to dig into the practical advice and see how it helps illuminate the path forward.
And it's a timely topic. English is undeniably a language of global connection, whether for travel, career, or simply understanding media. The ability to converse effectively is, well, it's paramount.
That's right.
This guide rightly prioritizes moving beyond just grammar exercises or vocabulary lists in isolation and putting it all together into spoken communication, focusing on everything from clear sound production to navigating social nuances.
Okay, let's unpack this guide step by step then. It starts right at the very beginning, establishing the bedrock for beginners. And the absolute core it highlights is the fundamental structure of English sentences. Subject, verb, object. The SVO structure.
That's the skeleton, the essential framework for countless English sentences. You start with the subject, that's the person or thing performing the action. Then comes the verb, the action itself. And finally, the object, the person or thing receiving the action. The material gives a simple example that makes it crystal clear. I read a book.
Simple.
I is the subject, read is the verb, and a book is the object. Simple, direct, and foundational.
And understanding why this particular order is so crucial is a key insight the guide emphasizes. It's not just some arbitrary rule you have to memorize, is it?
Not at all. English, unlike many languages, doesn't rely heavily on, say, case endings on nouns to tell you who is doing what. Word order carries a tremendous amount of meaning. The guide uses a perfect, slightly humorous example to show this. The dog bites the man versus the man bites the dog.
Right. Same words?
Same words, entirely different scenario just because the order of dog and man flipped. It's not just about changing the nuance. Changing the SVO order can completely reverse or, obscure the meaning.
So getting that wrong early on is a big problem.
It really is. If you try to apply the word order rules of a language with rich case systems to English, you'll likely create confusion. Getting SVO right early on is non-negotiable. It's the most efficient way English conveys who did what to whom. It's foundational for clarity and prevents fundamental misunderstandings, even as your sentences get more complex later on.
The guide points out other essential rules for these simple sentences too, especially for beginners, like the use of the simple present tense.
Yes, this is the tense for describing habits, routines, general facts, or states that are consistently true. The example provided, he plays soccer every Saturday, immediately tells you this isn't a one-time event or something happening right now, but a regular thing.
Routine.
Exactly. It's one of the first tenses learners encounter because it's used for so much basic description of daily life and unchanging facts.
And those tricky little words, articles a, and the. Small words, big impact on clarity.
Indeed. The material explains their basic function quite effectively. A and N are for singular countable nouns when you're talking about any one of that type. It's not specific.
Right, like a cat could be any cat.
Precisely. And the distinction between A and N is purely about sound. A comes before a consonant sound, a cat, and N comes before a vowel sound,
Oh, yeah.
an apple.
You listen to the sound, not just the letter. That's a good point.
It is.
Right.
And the is for specific nouns when you and the listener both know exactly which cat, apple, or book you're talking about, like the book on the table. Using the correct article signals, whether you're introducing a new, unspecified item or referring back to something already known or unique. Getting these right really sharpens the focus of your sentences.
So SVO, simple present, articles, these are the absolute core building blocks. The material includes a practical tip here. Writing 5 simple SVO sentences every day and reading them aloud.
That practice tip is insightful because it turns the abstract rule into a physical action. Writing the sentences reinforces the pattern visually, structurally. Reading them aloud then engages your mouth, tongue, vocal cords. It helps build the motor skills for producing English speech in that correct order. It's embedding the structure into both your cognitive understanding and your sort of muscle memory for speaking.
Right, making it automatic. And speaking of building blocks, you need words. The guide emphasizes the importance of acquiring a core vocabulary for beginners, listing essential categories for daily interactions.
Right. It's about equipping you with the words needed for those crucial initial interactions. Categories like greetings, hello, goodbye.
The basics.
Introductions. My name is, nice to meet you. Common objects you see every day. Book, phone, table. Basic verbs for actions. Eat, go, drink. Numbers, days of the week. And common adjectives. Big, small, happy, sad.
Yeah.
These are the words that unlock the ability to describe your immediate world and engage in simple exchanges.
The guide's tip here is using flashcards and associating words with images or real-world items. Why is that particularly effective?
Well, the reason why this works so well is kind of fascinating from a cognitive perspective. Your brain processes visual information and spatial relationships very efficiently.
Okay.
When you link the English word apple, not just to its translation in your native language, but to an image of a red apple or the actual fruit, you're creating a richer, multi-sensory connection in your brain.
Ah, I see. More hooks.
Exactly. This makes the word easier to recall later than if you just memorized lists of word pairs. It taps into deeper memory pathways.
Makes sense. Beyond just words and structure, being understood fundamentally requires clear pronunciation. The guide doesn't shy away from this, stressing its paramount importance.
It goes into detail, and for good reason. English pronunciation can be a significant hurdle. It starts with vowel sounds, highlighting the critical difference between short and long vowels.
The classic minimal pair example given is ship versus sheep. A tiny difference in how you produce that vowel sound completely changes the word and its meaning.
Absolutely.
Trying to say, I saw a big sheep in the harbor, when you meant ship, would definitely lead to confusion. The guide implicitly shows that these small phonetic details matter a lot.
They absolutely do. It's not just about being understood, but about understanding others. If you can't differentiate those sounds, a native speaker saying ship might sound like sheep to you.
Good point.
The material also points out consonant sounds that can be tricky. The theo sound is a common one. It distinguishes the voice t in words like this, that, they, where you feel vibration in your throat.
Like a buzzing.
Yeah, exactly. From the voiceless t-athen, think, thank, through, which is just airflow.
Right.
Often, learners might substitute sounds from their own language, like a D or T sound for the voiced thee, or an S or Z sound for the voiceless thee. The guide's focus here suggests the physical action putting your tongue between your teeth, pushing out air or sound is key. It makes it a motor skill practice, not just abstract listening.
And it even touches on the variation in the R sound, noting the difference between, say, British English, which is often non-rhotic.
Right, where they don't typically pronounce the R sound after a vowel unless the next word starts with a vowel, like in car.
Compared to American English, which is usually rhotic, pronouncing that R sound, like in car.
Yeah. This kind of detail highlights that pronunciation isn't just about individual sounds, but also regional variations you might encounter, which is important to be aware of.
It's also about the music of the language, the rhythm and melody. The guide introduces stress and intonation.
Yes, and it explains how stressing the correct syllable within a word can change its meaning or even its grammatical role. The go-to example is record, stress on the first syllable, which is a noun.
Like a vinyl record.
Right, versus record, stress on the second syllable, which is a verb, meaning to record something. That stress shift is a fundamental part of English word rhythm.
And intonation patterns are vital for conveying intent. Rising intonation at the end of a question that can be answered with yes or no, like, are you ready? Signals you're seeking confirmation. A falling intonation for a statement like, I'm ready, conveys finality or certainty.
And if you use flat intonation or the wrong pattern, it can make your speech sound hesitant, unclear, or even confuse the listener about whether you're asking or stating something. It affects how your message is received.
A wonderfully practical tip offered for improving pronunciation is recording yourself speaking and comparing it to native speakers. Why is that so helpful?
The insight here is that our own ears often normalize our pronunciation errors. We think we're saying one thing, but we aren't quite.
We filter ourselves.
We do. Recording provides an objective snapshot. It allows you to listen back, identify specific sounds or patterns that sound different from native speech, and then focus your practice on those areas. It turns an abstract goal, like sound like a native, into concrete, actionable steps.
The guide then brings all these beginner elements together with real-life dialogues and exercises. It presents scenarios like greeting a neighbor, navigating ordering food at a fast food place, asking for simple help in a store, talking about family, or checking into a hotel.
These are carefully chosen as common, essential situations. They require those basic greetings, the use of simple SVO sentences, calling upon core vocabulary, and relying on understandable pronunciation to get the message across.
The first hurdles.
Exactly. They represent the initial necessary interactions you'll have when starting to use English in the real world.
And the suggested exercises: sentence construction to practice SVO, vocabulary practice, pronunciation drills using minimal pairs, dialogue practice by mimicking and adapting, flashcard challenges for word retention are directly tied to reinforcing these foundational skills. They turn passive knowledge into active practice.
Looking at these exercises, you can see how consciously working through them builds that initial muscle memory and confidence needed to move beyond single words. It's about doing, not just knowing.
Okay, shifting gears now. The material takes us to the elementary level. This is where the focus moves from simply forming basic sentences to actually using them interactively, developing conversational skills.
Right. If the beginner stage is building blocks, the elementary stage is starting to connect those blocks to talk with someone. And that fundamentally begins with asking and answering questions.
Because conversation is inherently a back and forth.
Absolutely.
Right.
The guide spotlights the 6 core question words: who, what, where, when, why, and how. These are your fundamental tools for initiating inquiries, gathering information, and keeping the conversational ball rolling. They dictate the type of information you're seeking.
The guide provides examples that clearly show this interaction. What's your favorite food? I love pizza. Where do you live? I live in London. These aren't just Q&A, they are mini conversations.
Yeah, and the answer often contains hooks for the next question. If you hear pizza, you might ask, oh, what's your favorite kind? Or is there a good pizza place near you?
Right.
The material implicitly teaches that listening for keywords in the answer helps you formulate your next question, making the conversation flow more naturally. It's interactive.
The material also emphasizes the value of incorporating common phrases and expressions at this level. Why are phrases so useful compared to just individual words?
Because they represent ready-made chunks of language that native speakers use constantly. They make dialogue flow significantly more smoothly and sound much more natural.
Like shortcuts.
Kind of, yeah. They handle specific social functions efficiently. The guide categorizes them effectively. Polite requests: can you help me, please? Would you mind? Agreeing or disagreeing: that's a good idea. I don't think so. Expressing likes or dislikes: I enjoy watching movies. I don't like cold weather. Asking for clarification: what do you mean? Could you repeat that?
Essential stuff.
Totally. Using these phrases allows you to participate in conversations with more politeness and precision, navigating common social interactions effectively without having to build every sentence from scratch. They're linguistic shortcuts that convey social meaning as much as literal meaning.
They really do grease the wheels of conversation, don't they? And the guide correctly points out that conversation is a two-way street, stressing the importance of active listening alongside speaking.
Precisely. Being a good conversationalist in any language means being a good listener. The guide mentions techniques like nodding, maintaining appropriate eye contact, though with the caveat that norms vary culturally, which we'll touch on more later, and using encouraging verbal cues or fillers.
Oh, really? That's interesting, Gore. Little signals.
Yeah, and the insight here is that these aren't just meaningless sounds. They signal to the speaker that you are engaged, you're following along, and you are processing what they're saying.
It shows you're listening.
Exactly. They make you seem like an active participant, not just someone waiting for their turn to talk. They also provide you with a fraction of a second to formulate your own response, making your side of the conversation feel less abrupt or, robotic.
The elementary level real-life dialogues and exercises in the guide showcase these skills in action. Scenarios like discussing hobbies, shopping for electronics, describing daily routines, planning a simple trip, or asking for directions.
These involve more back and forth, more questions, and more reliance on understanding the other person's response compared to the beginner examples, more dynamic.
And the exercises for this level question practice, phrase memorization, listening exercises focusing on comprehension, role-playing using these new phrases and question structures, and vocabulary expansion are designed to move you from basic sentence production to interactive exchange.
Role-playing is particularly effective here, I think. It forces you to react in real time, even if it's simulated real time, and integrate listening and speaking.
Put you on the spot a bit.
In a good way. Yeah. And the suggestion to look for these common phrases in real English content, like songs or TV shows, is excellent because it shows you how they're used naturally, in context.
All right, let's step things up to the intermediate level. This stage in the guide is all about adding complexity, nuance, and sounding more like a natural English speaker.
This is where expanding your vocabulary goes beyond simply learning more nouns and verbs. The material introduces synonyms, which is great, but crucially dives into phrasal verbs.
Phrasal verbs. The bane of many English learners. Everyone groans about these.
They can be challenging, yeah, but mastering them is a significant step towards natural fluency. The guide explains what they are. Basically, a combination of a verb and a preposition or adverb that creates a new meaning.
Yeah.
Often one completely different from the original verb or particle alone. The insight is that these are almost like mini idioms themselves. They often don't mean what they literally look like.
The guide gives great examples showing this shift. Instead of just go, which is simple and direct, you might use phrasal verbs like head to, suggests a destination.
Right, or set off to begin a journey, or drop by, visit informally.
And instead of look, you could use check out, look at something interesting, look into, investigate.
Or stare at, look intently, maybe a bit rudely. See how these phrasal verbs add nuance and sometimes convey a different level of formality. Drop by is much more casual than visit. Stare at carries a judgment that look doesn't.
Yeah, definitely more subtle meanings.
The guide lists common phrasal verbs like turn down, which can mean refuse an offer or lower volume.
Context is key there.
Absolutely. Or pick up, learn a skill, or collect something. Run into, meet unexpectedly. Give up, stop trying. It provides clear example sentences like, she turned down the job offer, or I picked up some Italian while traveling.
And the most valuable tip the guide offers for learning phrasal verbs: learn them in context, through reading, listening, watching. Why is context so vital here?
Well, because the meaning of a phrasal verb is frequently idiomatic. It's not literal. Give up doesn't mean give something upwards. Its meaning stop trying is figurative.
You can't guess it.
You really can't guess it by looking at given up separately. You have to encounter it in a sentence like, don't give up on your dreams, to understand its intended meaning. Context provides the essential clue that unlocks their often non-literal meanings. Without context, they're almost impossible to learn effectively.
Okay, makes sense. At the intermediate level, the guide also pushes learners to build more complex sentences, moving away from just stringing simple SVO structures together.
Yes, it's about connecting ideas smoothly and showing the relationships between them. This is achieved using conjunctions like and, but, because, although, since.
The connecting words.
Exactly. And relative pronouns like who, which, and that. These words are the glue and connectors that weave simple ideas into more sophisticated thoughts.
The material beautifully illustrates the transformation with an example. 2 simple sentences. I like tea. I drink it every day. Become one more sophisticated sentence. I like tea, which I drink every day because it's relaxing.
Analyzing that single sentence shows the power of these connectors. The relative pronoun which links the idea of drinking it every day back to tea, providing more information about the tea. The conjunction because clearly states the reason why it's drunk every day, it's relaxing. This makes your speech much more efficient, fluid, and informative. You're conveying multiple related ideas in a single utterance, which is much more natural in conversation.
The guide also reminds us to use different tenses accurately at this stage: past simple, present continuous, future. Why is this crucial for intermediate speakers particularly?
Because accurate tense usage allows you to precisely describe when actions happen, are happening, or will happen. This is essential for telling coherent stories, recounting events, making plans, or explaining processes.
Taking the timeline right.
Exactly. Mismatched tenses can really confuse the timeline of your narrative. Mastering tenses adds a layer of precision needed for more detailed and complex communication.
Another major element at the intermediate level, and one that's less about grammar and more about social awareness, is understanding tone and context and adjusting your language accordingly.
This is huge. This is where you start to learn that there isn't just one way to say something in English. How you say it depends heavily on who you're talking to and the situation you're in.
Yeah.
The material provides clear contrasts. A formal way of asking for information, could you please provide more details? An informal way, can you tell me more? And a neutral way, I'd like some information, please.
And the factors influencing tone are your audience, like is it a friend, a colleague, your boss, a stranger? And the setting work, school, a party.
Right. And why is it important to get this right? What happens if you mismatch the tone?
Well, it can be really awkward, can't it? Or even cause misunderstanding.
Exactly. Mismatching tone is like wearing flip-flops to a formal wedding. It feels inappropriate, awkward, and can signal that you don't understand the social dynamics. Using overly casual language in a professional setting might make you seem unprofessional.
Or disrespectful.
Potentially, yes.
Wow.
And using overly formal language with friends might make you seem distant or stiff. Mastering tone allows you to build rapport, show respect, establish authority, or simply fit in, depending on what the situation requires. It's about using language strategically to manage relationships and perceptions.
The intermediate real-life dialogues in the guide really demonstrate these complexities. Scenarios like a job interview, planning a group outing that involves negotiation or compromise, discussing a work issue with a colleague or manager, making detailed travel plans, or negotiating a purchase.
These are interactions that require more than just conveying facts. They require flexible language, polite requests, clear explanations, and the ability to adjust your phrasing based on the response you get. You have to read the room, so to speak.
And the exercises listed for this level phrasal verb practice in different sentences, complex sentence writing by combining ideas, tone adjustment exercises where you rewrite sentences for different contexts,
Right.
role-playing involving more complex scenarios, and vocabulary expansion specifically targeting synonyms and more nuanced words are designed to give you the tools and practice needed for these situations.
And the suggestion to improvise within the role plays is particularly insightful, I think. It pushes you beyond just memorized scripts and forces you to react naturally using the language skills you're developing. It builds that crucial spontaneity.
Okay, we're moving into the advanced level now. This is about reaching that point of real naturalness, adding personality and sophistication to your English.
This stage involves mastering idioms and slang. The guide correctly states that they add richness and naturalness, but come with a caveat. They require careful use based on context. You can't just sprinkle them in randomly.
So quickly, what's the distinction again between idioms and slang?
Okay, so idioms are phrases whose meaning is not literal. You can't understand the meaning by looking at the individual words. They are figurative expressions.
Got it.
The guide gives examples like bite the bullet, meaning face a difficult situation with courage, under the weather, feeling unwell, or let the cat out of the bag, reveal a secret, usually unintentionally.
Right. Standard idioms.
Slang, on the other hand, refers to very informal words or phrases used by a particular group or in very casual contexts, and it often changes quite rapidly. Examples from the guide include chill, relax, lit, exciting or excellent,
Right.
or bail, leave abruptly.
Okay, more transient maybe?
Often, yeah. The material provides example sentences that show them in action. I had to bite the bullet and tell him the truth. I'm feeling a bit under the weather today. Who let the cat out of the bag about the surprise party?
And for slang, just chill, everything will be okay. That concert was totally lit. I'm gonna bail, I'm tired.
The tip to learn these from modern media like TV shows or movies is invaluable. Why is observing their use in natural conversation so critical for idioms and slang?
Well, you hear how people actually use them, right? Not just the definition.
Exactly. It's the same reason context is key for phrasal verbs, but amplified. Idioms and slang are deeply embedded in culture and specific usage patterns. You not only need to know what let the cat out of the bag means, but also when it's appropriate to use it, usually in informal contexts when a secret has been revealed.
You wouldn't say it in a formal report.
Probably not. Watching native speakers use them in authentic dialogue shows you the subtle cues for their appropriate usage, their tone, and the situations where they sound natural versus forced or just plain wrong. It's cultural osmosis through language. You absorb it.
Building on the idea of tone from the intermediate level, the guide elevates this to switching registers at the advanced stage. This is about flexing your linguistic style to adapt seamlessly to vastly different social and professional contexts.
Exactly. It's moving beyond just a simple, formal split to a wider spectrum of language styles. The guide offers explicit examples contrasting different registers for similar communication goals. A very casual greeting, yo, what's good?
Gotcha.
A standard professional request, hello, could we schedule a meeting? And a formal opening for a presentation, good afternoon, thank you for attending. Look at the word choice, yo versus hello versus good afternoon. the sentence structure, a fragment versus a question versus a complete formal statement, the level of politeness.
Big differences. And why is mastering this ability to switch registers a true hallmark of advanced fluency?
Because it demonstrates a deep understanding not just of English grammar and vocabulary, but of its complex social dimension. It allows you to navigate any conversation with any person in any setting effectively.
Adapting on the fly.
Precisely. You can build instant rapport with a casual yo, establish professionalism in a meeting, or command respect in a formal address. It shows you understand the implicit rules of linguistic behavior in different social works and situations, allowing you to communicate powerfully and appropriately across the full spectrum of interactions. It's real linguistic dexterity.
The guide also introduces two key communicative skills at this level: storytelling and persuasive speech. These go beyond simple information exchange. They're about using language to connect, entertain, or influence.
Storytelling is a fundamental human activity, right? And doing it well in a second language is definitely an advanced skill. The guide outlines a basic structure, a beginning to set the scene and introduce characters or the situation, a middle where the action unfolds or the conflict occurs, and an end with a resolution or a lesson learned.
It uses that Alps hiking example. Last summer, I decided to challenge myself and went hiking in the Swiss Alps beginning. The trail was incredibly steep and grueling. There were moments I wanted to give up, but I kept going middle. Finally, I reached the summit. The view was absolutely breathtaking. I learned a profound lesson about perseverance. And what makes a story like that engaging?
It's the details. The guide shows the power of specific descriptions: incredibly steep, grueling trail, breathtaking view, snow-capped peaks. Using sensory language helps the listener visualize and feel what you experience.
Makes a picture.
Exactly. A clear narrative flow, building from the setup to the challenge to the payoff, keeps the listener hooked. And ending with a reflection or lesson, I learned to push through challenges, makes the story relatable and provides a takeaway. It makes it more than just a recounting of events. It gives it meaning.
Persuasive speech is another advanced skill the guide covers, using language to convince someone of your viewpoint or, a course of action.
Yeah, this involves structuring an argument effectively. The guide implicitly suggests using facts or data to support your claims, appealing to emotions or benefits, and importantly, addressing potential counter-arguments.
Anticipating objections.
Right. The remote work example is a strong illustration. We should seriously consider adopting remote work. Studies show a 20% increase in output using a fact. Plus, it improves work-life balance, appealing to benefits. Now, I know some might worry about team cohesion, addressing a counter-argument, but we can implement virtual collaboration tools, and the long-term savings outweigh the initial investment providing solutions.
Analyzing that shows the components. State your proposal, back it up with evidence, explain the advantages, anticipate and neutralize objections. It's using language strategically to influence thinking and decision-making. Very useful skill.
Definitely. The advanced level real-life dialogues and exercises in the guide reflect these sophisticated uses of language. Scenarios include giving a formal work presentation, engaging in casual storytelling with friends, debating a social issue that requires expressing and defending opinions.
Things that require more complex thought.
Right. Networking effectively, or resolving a conflict which demands careful phrasing and negotiation. These aren't simple exchanges. They involve complex social interactions, managing impressions, and using language for higher-level communication goals.
The exercise is idiom slang practice in various contexts. Context-switching role plays, dedicated storytelling and persuasive speech preparation and delivery, and open-ended improvisation are designed to push learners to create, adapt, and perform with English in ways that mirror real-world advanced usage.
And the guide's emphasis on recording and reviewing your performance at this stage becomes even more vital. It's how you refine your delivery, spot awkward phrasing, and improve your overall impact when stakes are higher.
Okay, moving beyond the words themselves, the guide dedicates a crucial section to cultural nuances and nonverbal communication. This is incredibly important for achieving true fluency and avoiding misunderstandings, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely essential. It wisely points out that English isn't one monolithic entity. It varies significantly depending on where it's spoken and the cultural background of the speakers.
It's not just one thing.
Not at all. The guide illustrates this with distinct examples. American English, often perceived as quite direct and task-oriented. Let's wrap this up by 5 o'clock.
Get it done.
Kind of, yeah. British English, known for its politeness, understatement, and indirectness. I'm afraid we seem to be running a little bit behind schedule, which might actually mean we are very late.
Reading between the lines there.
You often have to. And Australian English, which often features a high degree of casualness, humor, and unique slang. No dramas made, it'll be right, meaning no problem, everything will be fine.
Why is understanding these different cultural norms and linguistic styles so vital for avoiding miscommunication?
Because what is considered polite, direct, or even understandable in one culture might be perceived very differently in another. A direct American style might feel abrupt or rude to a British speaker used to more hedging. Understated British politeness might feel confusingly indirect or even insincere to an American expecting more explicit communication. Australian slang can be completely unintelligible if you haven't been exposed to it.
Right.
Being aware of these differences helps you interpret meaning more accurately and adapt your own communication to fit the cultural context, preventing unintentional offense or confusion. Language is just so deeply intertwined with the culture that uses it.
Then there's the powerful realm of speaking without words, body language, and gestures. The guide highlights their role in enhancing communication.
Nonverbal cues provide a parallel stream of information. They can reinforce, substitute, or even contradict your spoken words. A universal signal like nodding for agreement or understanding is mentioned. Simple enough.
But the guide includes a critical note about cultural sensitivity, particularly regarding eye contact. While in many Western cultures, maintaining eye contact signals confidence, honesty, engagement.
Right, it's seen as positive.
The guide points out that in some Asian cultures, prolonged direct eye contact can be seen as disrespectful or challenging, especially when speaking to elders or superiors.
This is a perfect illustration of why awareness is key. What is a positive nonverbal cue in one place can be negative elsewhere. Hand gestures are another area ripe for variation.
Oh, yeah.
Waving, pointing, and a thumbs up are common, but the guide gives the classic example of the OK hand sign forming a circle with thumb and index finger. In the US and many other places, it means okay or good.
Simple.
But in parts of South America, the Middle East, and other regions, it can be a vulgar or offensive gesture. Big difference.
Wow, okay. So why is being aware of these cultural variations in gestures and body language so critically important for communication?
Because a simple, innocent gesture can inadvertently cause offense, confusion, or even derail an entire interaction, regardless of how perfect your words were. It's a powerful reminder that effective communication is holistic. It involves interpreting and using not just the sounds and grammar, but the full suite of verbal and nonverbal signals within a specific cultural context.
Yeah.
You have to look at the whole picture.
The guide also touches on the nuances of humor, politeness, and broader social norms in English-speaking cultures.
Right. Humor is notoriously difficult to master in a second language because it's so tied to linguistic subtlety and shared cultural knowledge.
It relies on so much unspoken stuff.
Exactly. The guide mentions different types, wordplay, like puns. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Or the guide's example, I read a book on anti-gravity. It's impossible to put down. Sarcasm, saying the opposite of what you mean for ironic effect. Oh, great job being on time, to someone who is very late. And cultural references, jokes, or comments that rely on shared knowledge of popular culture, history, or events. He's pulling a Kanye, referring to controversial public behavior.
How can attempting humor build rapport but also potentially lead to confusion? Seems risky.
It is a bit high risk, high reward. When a joke lands, it creates an immediate connection, a shared understanding, a moment of lightheartedness that builds rapport. It can be great.
Yeah.
But if the listener doesn't get the wordplay, misses the sarcastic tone, or doesn't understand the cultural reference, the joke falls flat. Worse, they might be confused, feel excluded, or even take the literal meaning seriously, leading to awkwardness or misunderstanding. You need to read your audience carefully.
Politeness is revisited, stressing its ongoing importance, particularly in formal or unfamiliar situations. The guide highlights common polite phrases beyond the basic please and thank you, such as would you mind? I'd appreciate it if you could. Pardon me. Why is politeness so consistently valued?
Well, politeness serves a crucial social function. It softens requests, makes disagreements easier to handle, shows respect for the other person's time and effort, and generally helps maintain smooth social relationships.
Lubricates the interaction.
Kind of, yeah. It's about managing face, protecting your own self-image and the self-image of the person you're talking to. It's often valued because it makes interactions more comfortable and cooperative, especially across potential cultural divides.
The real-life dialogues and exercises in this cultural section are specifically designed to highlight these nuances. Scenarios might involve navigating a polite British dinner party, understanding casual interactions and humor at an American barbecue, identifying and responding to sarcasm, ordering coffee in a laid-back Australian cafe, or making a polite but firm request in a workplace. They illustrate how language feels different depending on the cultural backdrop and the social rules in play.
And the exercise is cultural observation to encourage noticing these differences, gesture practice focusing on appropriate nonverbals, politeness exercises involving rephrasing requests, humor analysis to understand jokes, and cultural dialogue role plays all push you to become more aware and practiced in these subtle but extremely important aspects of truly effective communication. It's about sensitivity and adaptability.
Finally, the guide wraps up with practical strategies for maintaining momentum, because learning a language is a continuous journey, isn't it? Not a destination you just arrive at.
Absolutely not. It's ongoing. A key technique mentioned is immersion.
Immersion, getting surrounded by the language.
Exactly. As much as possible outside of structured study, the guide suggests concrete methods. Watching movies and TV shows initially maybe with subtitles in your native language or English, then challenging yourself by removing them. Listening to music and even singing along fantastic for rhythm, pronunciation, and memorizing chunks of language. Reading aloud from books, articles, or scripts improves fluency, pacing, and connects the written word to spoken sound.
How do these seemingly simple activities actually work to accelerate learning? It feels like just fun sometimes.
Well, it can be fun, which helps, but they work because they provide massive exposure to authentic, natural English. Watching TV shows like Friends or The Office, or listening to pop artists like Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran lets you hear everyday conversation speed, intonation, common phrases, slang, reactions, all in context.
You absorb it.
Your brain is constantly absorbing these patterns. Reading aloud helps you practice the physical production of English sounds and sentence rhythms at a conversational pace, improving your speaking fluency and confidence. It bridges that gap between passively understanding written English and actively producing spoken English.
Leveraging technology and media is also highlighted as absolutely crucial in the modern learning landscape. There are just so many resources available now.
There really are. The guide points to various tools. Language apps like Duolingo or Babbel are great for vocabulary building and basic sentence structure practice, often in a gamified way, which keeps you motivated.
Quick practice.
Yeah. Podcasts such as All Ears English or 6-Minute English are excellent for targeted listening practice and picking up natural conversational phrases. You can listen anywhere. And YouTube channels like English with Lucy or Rachel's English often focus on specific skills like pronunciation, grammar explanations, or conversation tips, providing visual support, which can be really helpful.
So you can really target specific areas you need to work on with these different tools.
Definitely. But perhaps the most emphasized and arguably most effective strategy is practicing with native speakers.
Why is direct interaction with native speakers considered so invaluable? It can be intimidating.
It can be initially,
Right.
but it's invaluable because it's real. It's unpredictable, spontaneous, and forces you to use everything you've learned: listening, understanding, thinking on your feet, formulating responses, managing breakdowns in communication when they inevitably happen.
The real test.
It's the ultimate test and training ground for conversational fluency. The guide suggests platforms like language exchange apps, Tandem, italki, where you can partner with native speakers learning your language.
A win-win.
Exactly. Local meetups for face-to-face practice, meetup.com, or online forums like Reddit, where you can interact through text or voice. These interactions provide authentic practice, expose you to natural speech speed and regional accents, and offer invaluable real-time feedback.
The guide also realistically addresses the common challenges that learners will face along this journey and offers concrete strategies to overcome them, which is important because it's not always easy.
No, definitely not. Like the ubiquitous fear of making mistakes, everyone feels this. The material wisely frames this. Mistakes are not failures. They are a natural, necessary part of the learning process. The focus should always be on communicating your message, not achieving perfect grammar or pronunciation first time, every time.
Just get the idea across.
Right. Native speakers are generally understanding and appreciate the effort. Letting the fear of imperfection paralyze you is the biggest obstacle. Just speak, even if it's not perfect.
Limited vocabulary is another common hurdle. When you know the idea but not the exact word, happens all the time.
It does. The practical strategy the guide offers is brilliant and simple. Circumlocution. Describe the idea using words you do know. If you don't know the word scissors, you can say the thing you use to cut paper.
Talk around it.
Exactly. This keeps the conversation going, shows you can communicate, and often the other person will provide the word you needed. Oh, you mean scissors, which helps you learn it in context.
Pronunciation difficulties are tackled by recommending targeted practice on specific sounds that are hard for you, perhaps using minimal pairs or online pronunciation tools.
Consistency in practicing those tricky sounds is more effective than just hoping they improve over time. You have to actively work on them.
And for lack of confidence, which affects so many learners,
A big one.
the guide advises setting small, achievable goals. Your first goal might just be successfully ordering a coffee in English, then maybe asking for directions, then aiming for a 5-minute conversation.
Baby steps.
Exactly. Celebrating these small victories builds confidence incrementally and provides tangible proof of your progress. It shows you are getting better.
And why are persistence and maintaining a positive mindset the bedrock underlying all these strategies?
Well, because language learning is a marathon, not a sprint, right? There will be days when it feels difficult, when you make mistakes, when you feel frustrated. Persistence means continuing to practice and seek out opportunities to use the language, even when it's challenging. A positive mindset helps you view those mistakes not as failures, but as learning opportunities. It helps you stay motivated by focusing on how far you've come and genuinely enjoy the process of discovery and connection that learning a language offers.
The final real-life dialogues and exercises in the guide synthesize these continuous improvement strategies. Scenarios might involve preparing for and participating in an online language exchange, using an app to navigate a customer service interaction where you have to explain a problem,
Real-world stuff.
or actively joining and participating in a local English meetup group, putting yourself out there.
And the exercises, the immersion challenge, tech-based practice sessions, planned native speaker interactions, overcoming challenges, reflections, and creating dialogues that integrate newly learned strategies prompt you, the listener, to actively integrate these methods into your routine.
The key takeaway here is really to pick just one new strategy from this section and commit to trying it this week. Action is what drives improvement. Don't just think about it, do it.
So we've journeyed through this incredibly detailed roadmap today, exploring how people talk in English, from establishing that fundamental SVO structure and core vocabulary,
The foundations.
to developing interactive conversational skills with questions and common phrases, stepping up to the intermediate level with phrasal verbs and complex sentences, aiming for naturalness with idioms, storytelling, and persuasive language.
Adding the flair.
And crucially, looking beyond just the words to understand cultural nuances and the power of nonverbal communication. All underpinned by practical strategies for keeping the momentum going and tackling challenges head-on.
It's undeniably clear from this guide that developing fluency and confidence in speaking English is a rich and rewarding skill. It requires dedication, certainly consistent practice across various skills, and that ever-growing awareness of the subtle cultural context that shapes how language is used in the real world.
This guide really does provide a comprehensive blueprint, equipping you with a clear roadmap and a wealth of actionable strategies at every stage. Remember, embracing mistakes is not just okay, it's an essential and natural part of the learning process. You are equipped to take the next step.
Absolutely. The path is laid out. It's about walking it now.
To leave you with a final thought to ponder as you continue your own English-speaking journey. Given how much English changes across cultures and situations, as this guide shows, what is one specific cultural nuance or nonverbal cue are you most curious to observe and learn about in real-life conversations this week?
Interesting question.
What possibilities does mastering not just the grammar and the words, but the way people truly talk in English unlock for you personally in your connections and opportunities?
Something to reflect on as you practice. Definitely.
That's all for this deep dive. If you found this helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.